Well, right now, the UN updating the dire situation in Syria, saying crews have not been able to deliver life-saving supplies to those in need, despite a ceasefire that went into effect 3 days ago. Of course, the United States being part of the negotiations for that ceasefire. John Huddy has the latest from our Mideast newsroom. And, John, I just want to mention this because we're seeing some comments from the State Department crossing right now. The U.S. State Department is saying that the ceasefire in Syria is holding by and large, although it's not perfect. So that's interesting coming from the State Department, although the UN telling us it's not going so well. So tell us a little bit about what we do know about what's happening inside Syria.
All right, well, let's start with the crews. You mentioned the aid crews not being able to get into Syria. We're talking about 40 UN humanitarian aid trucks that are stuck on the Turkish side of the Syrian border, and they were supposed to be getting to the war-ravaged city of Aleppo, but the reason they're being held up, Jenna, paperwork, if you can believe that. The UN Special Envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, says that Syria's government hasn't signed off on what are called the facilitation letters that basically would allow the trucks to roll into Syria. They're carrying, as we know, food, water, medicine, and other critical supplies to Aleppo, but Mistura says that they're losing time because of basically the bureaucratic holdup. Now, he says overall there's been a de-escalation of violence. Here's the thing, though. There are some reports that we've been getting today of fighting in western and northwestern Syria. And in fact, and this is the back and forth that we're hearing, Russia says that U.S.-backed rebel forces have violated the ceasefire. Now, earlier, the U.S. State Department says that there's been violations by both sides. But as you mentioned, Jenna, as the State Department is saying now, it says overall this ceasefire is holding up. And, of course, all this back and forth now leads to the question whether this truce, whether the cessation of hostilities, as it's called, will ultimately hold. Now, it calls for Syria's regime and rebel forces to hold their fire, and if that lasts for 7 days, the U.S. and Russia would then start working together fighting ISIS and al-Qaeda's affiliate in Syria. And if this succeeds, Russian officials say ceasefire talks could begin next month, but that's the question, will this indeed